Where's the... Let's not say much. Right now we don't have any viewers. Oh shit, here's Flatey. Hey Flatey, how you doing? I'm glad that there's some things that we cannot show. Although I wanted to go live at 7:28 because Kai was in mid-peak. He was peaking at the middle of that rant, and we'll get into that one of these days. But my name is Bruce, and I'd like to welcome you to our Tablebreakers. Tonight's show is going to be a little bit different than our usual. We're going to a topic selected by
somebody out there. We'll eventually call you out when we find out.
Yeah.
We're going to send some thick necks out there.
Because we're professionals. Yes, we are. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Oh, next to me is underneath the G-Rock banner is our friend Mr. G-Rock, Baron G-Rock. Don't get upset about the nobility title thingy. We also have Jaide with us tonight. Mr. Kai is here.
Hi.
For the time being.
Yeah.
Our friend Shadow from the Shadow and Sun channel. The Shadow. And then finally the Cigar DM. What's the cigar you're drinking or you're smoking?
I am actually freshly out of cigars. Mine Grateful Gold did not get me any cigars for Father's Day. I need to have a conversation with the little brat. No, I'm just out.
If you're going to use my credit card and buy me a Father's Day gift, you also enclose this money. So there's money enclosed for this fine little Dominican Republic cigar, or this Cuban, which is freshly de-embargoed, and now we can purchase it in communist Illinois. I'd like to have.
I don't have a cigar, but a buddy of mine gave me this new knife, and I don't know if I could completely show it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Can I?
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is the best thing ever. It has great weight to it. And if some bugger out there decides that wants to touch my daughter, things will just go right off. It just will drop right off.
That was too far.
Yep. That is too far for YouTube.
That's for food prep, not for people prep.
Right.
Yes. That
right.
is a food
I will
knife.
cook him a funny meal.
Oh. Tonight we are discussing a topic which has been done a few times in retrospect on other channels, but we're going to get it right tonight. And we're going to discuss role-playing, R-O-L-E, versus role-playing, R-O-L-L. And I expect tonight to just savage the shit out of my channel for the past 13, 14 years of us enjoying our adventure gaming, which is what we do very well.
Some of us filmed in Illinois. Some of us filmed in Washington, Illinois. Some of us filmed as people will no longer be playing with each other in Washington, Illinois.
Why would you guys quit? Why would you guys stop doing that? Come on.
You moved.
True.
You know, I got better.
Oh, your fault.
Listen, you cannot blame me on the store closing.
Some of us made other people rage quit during campaign in Washington, Illinois.
This is true.
All right.
That was some good role playing.
We had some great role playing, especially when we had the discussion about the. Can I even say that on YouTube anymore? No, probably not. Okay, well, there was that. Yeah, there's a video back there. We'll have to put the playlist up for the Kingmaker so you guys can watch that. That was a really fun campaign. We got to the second book over here in Illinois, and then we I left, and then Jacob completely tanked it.
The word you're looking for is shit the bed.
No. That's only he Amber herded the bed.
Oh.
So
Your ex there is kind of pulling to the side there, Hoss.
I
There's
know,
screen for that.
I need to get some resin enzite and make this wood strong again. So
It happens to all of us.
Connell or Jade, for the role playing versus role playing, this topic came up, and how do we want to tackle this tonight? Or are we going to dance around it and kick it like a kidney on a Viking soccer field?
I don't exactly have any questions. I mean, kick it around until questions pop into my head, as we've done with other things. I mean, all right.
So, role playing versus role playing. I guess the main argument here is, what is the true difference between the two? Well, how do you define role playing? I think you need to start there. Like, define what it is to do ROLE playing versus ROLL. So let's start with, what is the definition of role playing to you?
Yeah, beat me out the gate with that question. I'll have Bruce go
start
first. Bruce should go first because this is it's.
So,
Well,
Bruce,
if I
how do you
give my
define
answer first,
ROLE playing?
go ahead.
No, go ahead. How do you define ROLE playing?
Role playing is basically just taking on the guise or the mannerisms of a fictional avatar, so you can proceed through the simulacra and enjoy this time in a shared simulation.
Okay. Baron, how do you define it?
It is basically getting into the weeds as your character. You're making sure that you're using your player's knowledge as opposed to your player knowledge on things. Yes, the player may know things, but your character may not. And it's also, the being able to act out scenes with the DM as opposed to just rolling dice to get a score to be able to do things. It's actually being able to put into words what your character would actually say, what their actions will be, things along those lines.
What about you, Kai?
Honestly, I don't really. There's not really a really good answer for me on this one. I mean, no, I had answers, but no, I just want to play a character and not and do what they would want, what they're doing, not what I would do. But I hate being drawn back to it. Basically, yes. Sorry, I don't have a really in-depth answer for this one.
We're just breaking the ice of the topic, so don't worry about the big brain answers just yet. We're just setting a definition to ROLE playing. So, Connell, what is your definition of role playing?
Role playing has multiple different facets. I don't know. Facets. You have role playing that they do over in the Shauner channel, which is no dice. Everybody sit around their computer and they tell a group story, as you could be said. Or there's role playing as you're also sitting around a table, but with dice, and the dice dictates what your character can and cannot do. To me, just very much depends on which of the two set, or there's technically three, but we're leaving the third one out of this for the time being, of what kind of table you're at, what kind of group you're with. It being Dungeons Dragons, or it being was it White Wolf? or
White Wolf.
Traveler, or any dice. Traveler does have some dice, or any dice-free system out there. It just really depends on where you sit at and which style of role playing you find yourself into.
Okay. And lastly, Shadow, how do you define role playing?
It's pretty damn easy. It's pretending to be someone you're not. We do it from the time we're children all the way up until we're adults. We find different times and places to do it. But in the essence, the most simplest explanation is pretending to be someone you're not. How much you get into it, how much you develop that persona, that all depends on, why you're doing it.
Okay. So everyone has their own similar definition to one another of role playing. For me, it's kind of a mix of all those things. You're taking on a character, you're taking on something or someone other than your true self, and you're going through a simulation or a scenario with a bunch of friends, and you're trying to accomplish something with that character. That character has goals and whatnot, or should have goals of their own, separate from your own. Now, they should be part of you in some capacity, I would believe, but they don't necessarily have to be. I've seen players who build characters or play characters that are completely opposite of them, and they really get into the role. And I guess it's to break out and find something else about themselves, I guess, is one way to think about it. I don't want to get too meta, but okay, so sorry, I'm struggle busting to come up with the next question on this. When developing with role playing, what is it about role playing that you believe draws your players into their characters? Like, what is it about the role play aspect that you believe your players should be most invested in? Let's start there. I'm going to start with Shadow on this. I'm going to work the other direction now. So when you're setting up a role-playing game, what do you want to see from your players when they're playing their characters? Like, how far down the rabbit hole do you want them to go with their characters?
As far as they want to go. They're in it for the action, the excitement, the adventure. Usually, sometimes it's, less, interesting reasons, or maybe it's a very personal reason to them. I really don't judge that much, because for me, it's all up here for the player. I mean, the player may think they're doing a phenomenal job of role playing, because for them, they might be. That may be the extent of their ability to do so, as long as they, keep the game mechanics and the questions that are outside of the immersion to a minimum. I'm happy. They don't have to use the voices. They don't have to get up and gesture and walk around the table and do all that. Each player and each person is at a different point in their path of learning how to role play the best that they can. And I don't expect a lot, but there are some minimums, and we can go into that later. But it really is, no matter how good the role player is, it's 10 times better in their own head. And I'm going to let them have that without, trying to bring them down or bring them out of their shell or whatever. As long as they're, engaged in the game, I'm very happy.
Okay. What about you, Cigar? What is it, what do you expect players, like, how far do you expect players to go into their characters at your table? Like, what is the level of expectation?
I don't really have one. Everybody plays. Okay. Everybody sees their characters in different light. I've been at tables with you. I could not play. If put to the point, I don't think I could role play my character the same way you role play your character, nor could you role play my character the way I role play it. So when I'm at a table, I'm asking people to stay in character to keep the game related conversations, but where their comfortability is on role playing out their character, I don't get too judgy because as long as they're not like taking away from the campaign and honestly, using the cheap answer, having fun. Who am I to judge?
Okay. I'm just wanting to establish baselines. So, Kai, how often do you find your players really get into their characters more so than the dice?
I actually enjoy the fact that most of my players do tend to embrace their characters and start making decisions based on their own motivations rather than just simply looking for a mechanical advantage. I always have the players who do that, but there's always a certain point that they fulfill that desire for a mechanical, and then they become more willing to go into once they've fulfilled that baseline of the pyramid of needs. They really do start to enjoy their characters and go deeper into it rather than just simply, I am Bob, I am a fighter. I really enjoy when they go a little deeper and become more. And because I'm patient and I encourage it and I follow their leads rather than make them follow mine, most of them eventually just do it. It's not a miracle, but it's nice when it happens.
Baron, how about you? How often do you find your players diving deeply into the characters?
It really depends on my table. It depends on the table
Okay.
and how invested they get into the actual game. That's the thing, as a game master, you have to get them invested. Once they're invested, they will run with pretty much whatever you throw out. And that's the big thing, is getting that initial investment into not only the campaign, but also into their own characters. If they're invested in the campaign, if they're invested in their characters, they kind of know what they want to do, where kind of like what their wheelhouse is going to be and what they think their wheelhouse is going to be, because sometimes it changes due to the campaign. But typically with things like that, that is where you really see the actual role-playing ROLE come out, is from that. So, like I said, it does depend sometimes. You have to be able to get those players that are interested. You have to get those players who are willing to commit and to buy into that initial investment, that initial bite of the proverbial apple into the game.
Okay. Bruce, I know you've run a lot of games over the years on YouTube. How many of your players would you say are actual role players versus mechanical dice rolling players?
I'm going to say I have probably a 2/3 to 1/3 split between mechanical players versus role players, and that's just kind of what I've gotten into and I've gotten used to running for with Pathfinder. And Pathfinder and 3.5 and 3.0, they do a really good job with the art direction of those books. They show you everything, but when they bring out the diagrams, there's the battle mats and there's the grid lines. So a lot of people that want to do theater of the mind are pretty much turned off by that. And then whenever they start reading things like, when you're in combat, 1 inch equals 5 feet, and they're like, I want to do theater of the mind. So a lot of people just kind of eschew away from that system that want to do role playing. Now, shit, you can do role playing with Rollmaster, with Hero System. You can do role playing, and I mean, like, you can assume another character or another personality. You can have, your complete metamorphosis into your favorite German dictator, or just somebody who should never be on YouTube. You could do that in any game system. Nobody's stopping you from, I'm going to play Frostgrave, or I'm going to play Oathmark, and the entire time I'm just going to play the role of little Napoleon the whole time, belittling you and showing you where your tactics suck. And if you wish to do that at a skirmish game, then you could do anything you want at any table, anywhere, and nobody really has a right to tell you you can't do that. But you're entitled to it. And the thing is that Pathfinder, it advertises itself really well. It does bring a lot of mechanical players into the game, and it has a lot of rules which specifically target individuals that want to have an advantage. Try this feat. Hey, look at this spell. Hey, look at this skill. If you take 20, or if you get this skill unlock for 15 ranks and move silently or in stealth, you see what I'm saying? The game really lends itself to that. Now, I'm not saying it's a great game for only mechanical people, but if you've got a group that's new to this, that's really a good system to help them chip their teeth on and let them learn, because it is a game that if you run it with consequences for your actions and for your decisions, it can be a great system. The problem is that a lot of players go into it and they just want to create this character. I saw it's the Magic the Gathering net deck, but it's a version of a character that I saw for Pathfinder because I went to my store, my friendly local game store, and I saw this guy playing it for PFS. And I want to do it in your campaign world, and it's like it really does, cater to those people. And a large chunk of the rules are online for free. So you can build anything you want and never have a monetary investment, which is nice, but it really does seem to exist for the mechanical player. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's a good thing, because most people get into role-playing games and they're like, oh yeah, I want to play more One World by Night. I want to play more Vampire. And then they discover like a game that uses miniature tactics. And they're like, oh, I want to play more skirmish games. And then you discover like Frostgrave. And you're like, oh, this is bad. This is great. They get into Oathmark, or maybe they go into 40K. And then they turn into Wargamers. And then they've kind of gone full circle, because they're like, you know what? I was doing that, and now I'm going back to Advanced Squad Leader or Starfleet Battles. But Pathfinder lends itself to mechanical role-playing, ROLL. And there's so many reasons for that, baked within the hard copy of the rules, baked within the coding of the rules itself. And if you don't mind that, it's a lot of fun. Now, can you have a person in your group that wants to role-play? Absolutely. I have this new person named Janet, and she's really gotten into playing a cleric. She's really gotten into playing a support class, which she doesn't know she's quote-unquote support, but her entire modus operandi is, I need to help my team. And that's what she does each and every game. I'm very proud of her.
Don't tell her she's support.
What?
Don't tell her she's support. Fuck.
Hold on. You can't fly without supply, dude.
No, I mean that as a compliment towards her.
What?
I mean that she is, she runs right into it. She's not she's playing a support character, but she doesn't play it that way. She plays it, well, let's go knock the shit out of this person.
I disagree. She's not a melee person. She looks first to like bolster the party and to reinforce them with what's that 4th level spell she likes to cast? It gives you an extra attack or an extra move.
Haste. It's a haste. It's a variation of a haste spell.
It's a very badass 4th level spell for clerics. It's probably the most OP spell in the mid levels.
Yeah.
Really, but that's her go-to. And then she goes for the prayer, because an extra +1 to all your D20 rolls, no matter what you're doing, your saves, your hits, your skill checks, you get a competence bonus. Bam, here you go. And this is based off your cleric. And then she starts looking around for wounded members on the field and trying to get within range to where she can either burst channel and provide them hit points, or get next to them and give them that rousing enema, or that positive channel healing touch. And that's her thing. Now, that sounds like a lot of mechanical things, but in the actual game, it's not. There's a lot of things that are in the narrative that do provide mechanical effects, but her entire aspect of playing the game, she wants to help the party. And she wants to get them, to where they're helping her with her character's goals because she is bought and paid for on this mind of I'm going to make sure that Freya is on the tongues of more people. Whenever they're in need, they're praying to Freya. Or better yet, whenever they're, actually able to sit back and enjoy themselves, they thank Freya before their sip of beer or mead. Or better yet, they're going to help construct this new Freyan temple in this community that I want to move to. And I absolutely see Janet playing that in the game. She does it really well. Then I have characters like Greg, who plays Grog. Greg's idea of here's how I play. If it's not my turn, I'm going to put it on mute and I'm going to play my guitar. If something happens, I'm not worried about it until the initiative is rolled. Once the initiative's rolled, then I worry about it because I get to shine. And then I get to go into battle. I have 10-foot reach and I get to go decapitate people. That's all he cares about. He's a ROLL player. He loves the mechanical aspects of Pathfinder. He also loves getting the party into trouble and seeing what's going to happen. So whenever I've got a problem with my game to where it's not moving ahead far enough, I will cue him with something that catches his eye, or it'll put the seed of something in his mind to where he wants to pursue it and see how he can kind of make the party go through a little grief. And that's the two extremes of my table that I've got right now on Saturdays. I've got one person that's completely into the idea of helping out the party and making sure they survive and getting them further into whatever narrative they're delving into. Then I have another player that he's there for the games and for the fact he's playing with his friends, and he loves the mechanical options that's in Pathfinder. He loves that. He loves being enlarged to large size because he gets more constitution. He gets a better reach. He has a better threat of getting those opportunity swings. He loves that. And he doesn't care about the role play.
No, he does not. It's not a war crime the first time.
That begs the question, how can a game master encourage players to engage in role play? What are some of the strategies that you as a game master can employ to create a gaming environment that supports and rewards immersive and creative play over mechanical play?
Well, what I do is I try to set up endeavors to where they will have 3 or 4 hours without rolling a skill check or an initiative or an attack roll, because I've gotten very much to the point where my out of combat phase of game is very much just a conversation that's tossed back and forth between me and the players. And if the less I handle the dice, the more they have a chance to really get themselves in trouble, because some of them don't know how to role play or how to role play effectively. And some of them really want to be a better role player because they feel that their characters are kind of badasses in combat. Why can't they get the same amount of respect when it comes time to parlay? And that's where, as a GM, you kind of have to foster an attitude of, listen, I'm going to help you learn how to role play your character and how to be a good person or a good character in public whenever it's time to have a face and whenever it's time to make decisions. But if you're not, in a position to where you're going to be valued as that, if you don't have a high charisma, if you're not playing a paladin or a bard or a sorcerer, it's going to be a little harder for you to be the front man of the group. And it's going to be harder for you to be respected by other people outside of your group, because the game is really meant to let those character classes I just mentioned kind of roll up at the front of the party until it's time to throw down. Then everybody gets away, kind of parts away and pushes a paladin or fighter forward, and hopefully the initiative isn't going to be too brutal on them. But I prefer a game to where I'm not rolling dice, to where I am volleying questions back and forth between me and my players. That's what I like the most about it.
What about you, Shadow? How do you get get your players to engage in more social interactions rather than mechanical interactions, or do you ever have a problem with that?
Well, I'm glad you put that in there. If you have a social contract that specifically states we're here to role play, as in role play, as in not just roll dice, then it really shouldn't be a problem. If someone says, they know how to do it, it's not a problem. And then they show up and they do everything but that. Right off the bat, I'm going to have to go with the carrot or the stick. Depending on the type of person they are, I'm either going to show them me giving the other players XP for role playing and them getting none and say you didn't, therefore you don't get, or I'm going to, tell them this is probably not the table for them. Mind you, that is if the social contract is that we are going to role play. If I'm going to say it's going to be a loose game, don't worry about it. We're just going to, see where it goes, that sort of thing, then not going to make a big deal out of it. But if I want to run a very role play heavy game, I'm going to let everybody know about it beforehand. I want this to be a role heavy game. Let's, try to keep the out of game talk to a minimum. We're only going to be here for a limited amount of time. We can bullshit before, we can bullshit after, but with game time, let's make this as roll heavy as possible.
What about you, Baron? How do you encourage your players to actually engage in social interactions more so than mechanical ones?
Well, I've found that actually consequences tend to help with that, just for the simple fact of, well, you didn't talk to this guy, and he would have given you the information that you would have known that, they had 15 bugbears stationed at the door because he had scouts going out and seeing it, but you guys completely decided to right over that, and you didn't have the conversation. You did not have, talk to the people, and that's going to help you. And sometimes just explaining that, it all usually takes is one time, and once you explain that, then all of a sudden they want to talk to everybody about everything, just for the simple fact of they don't want to go into a situation where they don't know what they're walking into. They could, wind up having their butts handed to them one time, and it was all because they didn't talk to the one dark stranger that was, that reached out to them, out of a dark alley, who actually was like a spy master or something. But since they didn't take the time to actually have the conversation, didn't actually take time to ask the questions, to get the information, that is typically is where most of them have that light bulb or that aha moment of, oh, so yeah, I guess we should probably talk to people. We could be murder hobos. That's good, but we don't want to be murder hobos that get our butts handed to us, or we like our stuff. I don't want to give up my stuff to I'm going to use Bruce's game, for instance. I don't want to give all my really cool shiny stuff to a blue dragon because I stepped into a portal by mistake. No, that's where you have have those interactions and have those questions, and that's where you allow the consequences of them not asking become self-evident, and then after the fact you tell them as DM to player, not in game, but DM to player, that they really should start asking questions, because those social interactions are what's going to, number one, gain them standing, gain them respect, also going to be able to get them information and maybe even items they're going to need to make it through. And a lot of times when folks are especially newer role players, they don't think of that aspect just because of it doesn't necessarily occur to them. So, and even sometimes with some older players, maybe they've been in, group after group after group of murder hobos. You know, that and they've gotten away from the aspect of the role play, and it makes it harder not only for truthfully for the actual players, but then it also becomes harder for the DM to be able to give them the challenges to be able to overcome. Even when they think they have all the answers, you know, all it takes, and Jade, I'm going to use yours, all it takes is a couple of wraiths to completely screw them. You're muted. Jade, you're muted.
I was just thinking, oh, Dread Wraiths. What a great world ender. Anyway, Connell, down to you. How do you get your more mechanical players to engage in social interactions more so than the mechanical ones?
I don't.
Or do you?
Amazing enough, I don't know. I seriously doubt that's the fucking system. I seriously doubt that's the system. But even when I'm running out of shop, 5th edition seems to track, with at least the tables I've been running, more of the role players, as in, you know, I actually want to talk to everybody in the world. Let's go play Skyrim together. Than the mechanic size that Pathfinder brought. I don't, like I said, I don't think it's the system. I really don't. I'm not going to give 5th edition that much credit. I think it might just be the area I'm at, because Charleston is also Charleston, Illinois is also a college town. And when I'm dealing with kids, it's story time. It's just, there's no other way to put it. It's just story time with a bunch of kids. And if I do have a more mechanical player sitting down at the table, I explain to them, like, listen, especially with the whole women party, the whole women group I have, they're really into role playing. They're really into their characters. If you think you could bring something to this, you're more than welcome to join. If not, hey, there's a guy over there that's doing something. There's somebody over there that's doing something. This might not be the table for you. I'm not going to disclude them, or her, as the case may be, but I will let them know if the table is already set up, this is what the table needs or expects from its other players. I don't need you, whatever their thing is, to be a wrecking ball into what I got going on. You're muted.
Okay. So Kai, you game master for a club, right? An after school activity?
Yes.
Okay. Do you ever have to go the extra mile to get them to engage in more social interactions, more so than mechanical, or are they just willing to dive right in?
They're willing to dive right into it. I've almost had no reason to have to like prod them or convince them to role play. It's because of the fact that I myself love to do hijinks and weird goofy bullshit that comes from a long history of playing storyteller based games. That because I bring that with me and my willingness to go, you're in a world, go have fun, go do something interesting, and all I gotta do is periodically add a little bit more momentum, and they do it all themselves. They have no problem being, I had players who were brand new come in and go, could I play a druid, a goblin druid who's a farmer? And I'm like, wait, what? Play, go ahead. No. Rather than go, no, that sounds stupid. I'm like, no, go ahead, play that. And then another one goes, can I do? They come up with these interesting things, but because I don't say, no, that's not a player's handbook thing, you're not playing a standard adventurer, they all come in and go, wait, so we can actually do something fun? I'm like, yeah, you can do something fun, something interesting. If you want to go out there and create magic devouring yeast that grows like the blob, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. And they're like, wait. And because of the fact that they're so used to either having people go, going to game stores and playing at game nights, and all they have is GMs who go, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, this is where all they ever hear is the word no repeatedly thrown in their faces. And that when they give them the opportunity to, or when I do say no, it's no, but here's why, or no, but here's how you could do that. And then give them a prod, a few ideas, a few suggestions, and then watch them run like mad. But because I'm so used to being able to run bizarre, over-the-top story, it's very hard to throw a curveball at me that I'm going to go, cancel game, can't handle this, plot dumb. No, I can run through it quite energetically and So whatever strange thing that they come up with, I'll make it work. I will bend time and space itself to make it work and make it fit, because I'm running my thing, they're part of it, and I want them to set the pace on where they want to go, rather than go, here is the plot line that I'm forcing you to go through. Here's the module of bullshit, and congratulations, your entire point of playing this game is to go from adventure zone to buy goods zone. You may now engage in role playing. You may now talk here, gather information, buy your loot, trade loot. Now you are geared. Go back to adventure zone and have fighting land. But because of the fact that I dump them and go, fighting can happen anywhere. Talking can happen anywhere. You could buy and trade however you want. If you guys want to play Green Visor spreadsheets and ledgers, we'll play spreadsheets and ledgers. If you want to make your character's entire concept is, I want to make a door company. I had a player look at me and go, wait, all we do is break down doors. We kick doors open and we get into fights. What if I create a company that comes in afterwards and sells you new doors? And I'm like, wait, what? I'm building it. I'm going with the druid. We're going to go use it, and we're going to artificially grow better trees so we can make better doors. And I'm like, but and he goes, we're not the only, because he realized that I run a world that has more than just, you are not the only heroes. There are other adventurers doing other shit. There are other door kickers. And he realized that, wait, I'm going to go follow around the FBI, this world's version of the FBI, and when they kick in doors, I'm going to fix their doors for them. And he created an entire storyline of literally following around the alphabet agencies and replacing doorways. And then going door to door to dungeons and going, hi, are you interested in a better door? Do you have a barbarian problem? You need a better door. And it's like, and he was doing this entirely as a side gig to make side money. And everybody else is like, that's a cool idea. And like half the party joined his corporation of door makers. And the other half went, well, we want to make donuts. Why? We're going to sell donuts and coffee to the guys kicking doors. And I'm like, whoa, okay, you guys are all like fighters, wizards, and badass adventurers. I'm like, yeah, but we're doing this now. This is our thing. I'm like, we're playing Pathfinder. You guys should be like adventuring. I have a plot. Like, no, we have a new plot now. What plot's that? Securing a sugar contract and figuring out where we can get cinnamon and good coffee. And I'm like, oh fuck, okay. You guys created your own story. We're going with that. And like one player. But what about the plot line that involved the dead dwarf, the gnome adventure, and all the other things? And they're like, and everyone else is like, not important. Somebody else will handle that. We have to go over here and create Dunkin' Donuts and the door company. And I'm like, well, okay. And that was like 5 months of adventuring there. And, there was fights, there was adventures, but it was weird and fun. And it was entirely them jumping into it. But because I didn't say no to them, they went and said, we're going to do that. They found other plot lines. They eventually got, made friends with other people, and really important things did end up happening. But continually in the background was them focusing on making the best coffee, the best donuts, and the best doors you're ever going to buy. And I was happy with it. That in my book, that was a victory was a bunch of high schoolers going, no, let's actually do something productive with our lives rather than be murder hobos. Now, they were murder hobos, but they had a base of operations and a board of directors they had to answer to. And it was nice because it gave me things to go, yeah, you got a problem. Why? There's a hobgoblin incursion happening at one of your sugar plantations, and they're like, oh, fuck that. We're going to take care of that shit. Like riot gear intact and going out into the wilderness to go beat up some hobgoblins for knocking out their sugar plantation. Yeah, they were into this stuff, and I loved it. And it took very little motivation because they were like, my theme is simply I'm Batman. Okay, well, Batman, what are you doing? Building Wayne Industries, because I need to be able to afford to play Batman. Good plan, my friend. Good plan. And it's funny because once one or two got an idea, they feed on each other. And the one guy, I don't know what to do. I'm really just kind of a combat character, and I don't have an idea how to actually do what I want to do. And then everybody else literally would come up and go, I got a spot for you. Well, all I do is kick in doors, and the door guy. So, I'm going to send you to kick in doors, and it's like I don't have shit. The role players will grab the role player and drag them into their schemes, and go, and because they're the ones engaging it. And I just kind of go, here's some complications, make things interesting. And they jump on it. They work with it. And I don't have to do much more than just simply go, the world is fun. And the world is fun. The world is interesting. Go do something in it. But you don't have to be a hero. Heroes happen. You don't choose to be a hero. You become a hero because of things that happen as you play. And they learn it, they enjoyed it, and now when new players come in, they hear about. Did you hear about how this one player managed to, in an earlier campaign, managed to create clones of himself? And well, mind you, he was still murdered by the rest of the party because he was still evil, but he got to make clones of himself. And then one player goes, "I got donuts that kill magic users because it got magic. I got magic eating yeast," and they're like, and players are like, I want to play this. I want to do this because this sounds more interesting than going off to. All right, so you walk it. Now, mind you, I do have all the combat tiles. I have maps. I have miniatures. When it comes time for combat, boy, does it turn into tactical death marches, and I will have engagement ranges of. Congratulations, you see a unit at 3 kilometers. What do you do? And it's at 3 kilometers. How long? And then start figuring out, start using some of your math skills that you're supposed to have. Kids who are in AP math, start using some of your actual math skills that I know your math teacher, who's sitting across the table from me and smiling, going, yeah. Start figuring out your all your engagement ranges. Here's their speeds. Here's their movements. Here's your movements. You should be able to figure out time on target calculations here, kids. You should be able to figure this out. I know you can do the math.
Well,
I didn't do it. I don't. Yeah.
So that beggars the question, how can game masters then include the more mechanical aspects into role playing? So you have an example right there where your players are into the more thespian style role playing, the actual getting into character role playing.
I can actually dovetail into this one because
go ahead and dovetail, and then we'll go to Baron afterward.
Okay, because of the fact that I do let them do crazy things, but I also make sure that they understand that there's math behind it, there are actions behind it, skills that are behind it. There are mechanics, because I understand that if I let it be entirely theater of the mind, the people who are more creative, the more out there big brainy people will go, my character's got a charisma of 8, but I can talk my way through anything. I go, no, you can't. Here's some bonuses, here's some penalties, here's some things. I work the math into it. Make them have to look at the rules, learn the things, because while yes, we could be playing a LARP, at which point the best dressed, most charismatic player wins, but we don't want that, because guess what? We're all awkward. We're all awkward teens or awkward adults who don't know how to dress ourselves in anything besides a suit, jeans, or polo shirts and t-shirts. And the best most of us can put on is a suit for a court or a funeral. Some of us actually wear them for jobs, but for most of us, it's simply polo shirt, slacks, nice shoes, and I wear a suit because someone's dead, or I'm going to a wedding. So most people don't know how to dress themselves like with any form of grace. But you go to a real LARP. Well, guess what? People know how to dress themselves like with some grace to them, and they know how to talk. Most of us are socially awkward trolls who can't actually play Charisma 16 or 18. But hey, we have rules. But I could talk my way out of it. Congratulations. We could also be playing, SCA or some of the live action combat people, where hot stick of the day gets to decide everything. You may know everything in the world, but don't worry. Today, Bob over there's got a bigger stick than you, and he beat the snot out of you. But my fighter doesn't matter. Bob's stick beats your stick. Congratulations, you lost. So we have rules that allow for combat to work. We have rules that allow for social to work. Yes, talking, describing things can give bonuses. Describing things can, how I kill somebody has bonuses if I describe it really well, or if I think creatively. If I talk well, I get some bonuses, but I don't allow puppetry. Sorry, one player who's too smart, who played the Charisma 8 character, who's going to stick his hand figuratively up the butt of the talking character and go, you are going to say this, talky talk, 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 talk. No, none of that shit happens. So I do make them have to go, no, there is actual skills. You should actually use them. You need to actually do something to back it up, because if you left it to me to just make up whatever I know and justify everything, I played Amber. Trust me, I could justify everything. There is nothing I cannot justify if you give me 2 seconds. How do you know that? Blah 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 blah. Okay, now I now know how to build a castle. I build a castle, run an empire, and forge battle armor. By the way, this is my flying space super dimensional fortress that I built with my magical skills. No, you can't. I fucking did it. Back off. I justified. No, we have rules, and I work the rules into it so that way they understand that they are still in a mechanical system, that while they can do whatever they want, I give them out. If they can't do it, they can hire people who will be able to do it for them, and teach them that you do need to build a social network. Here's how to do it. Here's how to run your intelligence here's how you gain intelligence. Here's how you gain resources. Here's all the things that you need to do to make it mechanical. So that way I ground the role players. I ground the thespian role players with mechanics, and then I give the role players who are not creative or not as creative, who are not as charismatic, who would otherwise be going, I'm being outclassed by the drama students, and go, have you seen the tools that I have been pushing onto those guys? These tools are also for you. I understand that you are shy or awkward. Here, enjoy the tools you need to be able to go, I would like to build an armored wagon. That is enough for me to change gears, go, here's the tools, mechanics, and charts you're going to need. to start doing the engineering you need to be able to build that thing you want to do. But I don't know fully. I will help you through the first couple times, and then you'll have the tools to be able to do what you want. And then suddenly players are going, and then other players are going, wait, I can do that, and they start. And it's great when you level out the playing field and give everybody the same tools, and you don't let one person, just because they are a charismatic god at talking, run everything. Or one guy who goes, I am a tactical genius. I can be the one man who holds the bridge against 1,000 oncomers, and let him dominate the entire game. No, you got to make sure that you lift with one hand and push down with the other, and make sure that they all get to have it, or at least more likely or not, throttle a bit, and then drag the other people up with them. Because I don't like nerfing people. I prefer to actually bring the people who are lagging behind up, rather than rather than walk up to the guys who are ahead and go, I'm going to punch you in the dick now until you stop moving long enough for them to catch up. No, I prefer to give them a bit of a boost to make it an equally fun game. That's how I would do it. I'm sorry, but that's how I do it.
Okay.
Why does it
So,
keep
Baron,
kicking me in the dick?
Well, my friend.
So, Baron, I said I was
Here
going to get
for
to you
violence
next.
and dick punching.
My dogs are being very feisty right now. So, as far as mechanical role playing, my words, not doing well tonight. So the question was, how can game masters and players use the more mechanical aspects of the game to enhance and support role playing, as in a social under a social encounter?
The way I usually do it is if they give a very convincing argument, I typically will give them a bonus to, like, let's say they're talking to a trader and they're trying to get supplies or whatever. If they, do a very good job and come up with, a good background or something like that, that a good interaction with that NPC, I don't necessarily tell them this, but I will give them a bump, like a +1, maybe +2 bonus to whatever they roll. They have no idea that I'm doing this, but that's something as a game master that we can do, where, let's say, in order to find the really cool bright shiny sword of bright shininess, that everyone is wanting, and it's there, on the mantle behind the counter, and the fighter comes and goes, ooh, I want that. And he has an interaction. He goes and explains how he's killed thousands of orcs and saved the kingdom dozens of times, and just weaves a story about why he needs this sword in order to further his studies or whatever. That type of thing will impress the NPC enough to give them a plus, or maybe even lower the amount for them when they start to haggle about the price. Because I am a firm believer of giving benefits to the players if they are doing good role playing, just because it enhances the story, it enhances the background of those characters, and for them, and down the road, that's how their fame starts to become, because they're having these interactions, and they hear about these heroes that are doing this awesome thing of stopping this awesome evil, and they talk about it in the bars and pubs, in the taverns. They talk, bards hear this. They bards love new material. They start making songs, and they're traveling everywhere, and all of a sudden they become the heroes of the kingdom because of these interactions. And that is one thing that I really promote is by giving them some additional benefits when they do come through and do that great role play. Because if they come up and say, I want to bite that sword, well, it's going to be 5,000 gold. No, I want to haggle. I rolled a 15. Okay, it's going to be 4,900. I'm not going to give them a bigger cut or discount because they came up and went, oh, I want to haggle, and they just roll the die. No, I want to hear you haggle. How are you going to haggle? How are you going to convince this gentleman to attempt to drop the price? Another thing, there was a video. I think it was one of the Viva. I can't think of the channel name.
Well, you say, I want my player, I'm going to encourage the player to actually haggle, engage in haggling instead of rolling a die. What if, so you've got two players, one who is, a top tier, like Intuit role player who, can handle any social negotiation, whatever. And you've got a player who is more of a recluse and can't really talk all that well. And the person who goes, hey, I'm, such a good, well verbose individual, I'm going to haggle down to, as far as they'll go. Whereas the other person's like, well, I can't haggle, I can't ever get to be, the same mark as him. Like, do you allow for them to reach a certain percentage and no further? Like, how do you keep that fair?
Yeah, it's a certain percentage. And, okay. My whole thing is, if you try, that's the thing. You there are going to be socially awkward people at every table. We've all seen them. We all know, that, maybe they aren't the best way of articulating. But if they can get their point across and whatnot, then I will go ahead and count that as part of their haggling and part of their thing. Yes, Flavy Viva Ledger League. So there was one video they had where the guy went up and said, I want to buy this pouch. He goes, okay, well, it's going to be, 5 shekels. And he goes, okay. And he goes, no, it's not okay. You can't have it. And he goes, why? You have to haggle. That's part of the thing. You have to haggle. He goes, okay, I'll give you 4 shekels for it. No. I'll give it to you for 3 shekels. Okay, sure. He goes, no, you really need to learn to haggle. You have to haggle. So, and that's what's kind of going back in my mind, because, even if you have those people who are kind of, socially awkward, you really need to adjust for them, because, like I said, not everybody is going to be that kind of outgoing, being able to articulate everything.
But wait, there's more.
Well. What?
But wait, there's more.
Exactly. So, but as long as they attempt it or are able to get their point across, or their portion of their story or whatever, typically I will go ahead and grant them that same type of benefit, because you know what? They try. And that is also another thing that us as DMs do, is those people who can't necessarily do the role-playing aspect as well, that do lean more on the mechanical. If they start to see that even with them trying, they're starting to get some benefit from them, that's another way to draw them into the role-playing and help them, open that up a little bit more, just for the simple fact of they're trying.
Maybe they'll do something in their personal life. Well, they'll try to be in the church nativity play, or they'll stretch and they'll read a book on taking on a role, and they'll actually treat it seriously because they do want to up their table game. But so a lot of people, they don't want to do the thing. They don't want to put themselves out and endanger themselves and maybe look stupid. So they would just read a book on it, or and live vicariously through that, and it'll sit in their head for days or weeks or months until finally they get it. And at the table, they just start belting out stuff. Do you think that's a possibility?
I'm going to use myself for instance. Bruce, I had only played a handful of games before I sat at Bruce's table. From the time I sat at Bruce's table to the time that when he left the area, you can ask him. I was a completely different type of player sitting at the table.
Yeah.
It's because he rewarded those types of interactions. And that's another thing is that when you are a player and then you become a GM, you tend to pick up things that you like from other GMs that you've played with and other ways of being able to express to the party and to the players how you want or how things are set up. You could, as a GM, you can say, well, you walk into a room, it's 10 feet by 10 feet by 50 feet tall. It's dark. Okay. Or you can say you walk into a room, it's fairly large, a large vaulted ceiling. There are pillars that are on all sides. Looks like it's like a support type structure. The floor it looks like it is some type of like limestone or granite. Just using those type of things actually comes from role playing because you're actually becoming more descriptive. You're painting the picture in the mind. And that is the one thing with the role playing that the players do is they're helping you highlight things in the picture that you're painting. And typically that is when you have a very successful campaign is when they're sitting there and the players are adding their own little brushstrokes to that work of art.
Can I add something on there?
Muted, Jade.
Jade, I think it's important for a lot of people to watch other players. And I know that we've got dozens of live streams available through Rumble and YouTube and other streaming services. I see it. I'm really happy about that. That makes me very happy to see all those services available to where you can watch a live play. I think that's great. I think for the longest time, people were scared to go out and they didn't go to the game store. And some people wanted to take on this RP game. And so, a lot of people wanted to get into role playing and, well, might as well do it now. I've got nothing else going on. And they start doing that. But when they start doing it, they're kind of lost. And a lot of people, they have to go to the web. They have to find streams. They have to figure out how to do stuff. That was something that my channel was one of the first Pathfinder Let's Plays. It wasn't great, but we were one of the first. And a lot of people that I saw on the Paizo forums recognized that, and they were pretty happy that somebody was ballsy enough to get out there and just put their face and their name out there and, host his friends coming over every week. And that was something I was proud about. And I'm still proud about that to this very day. I probably shouldn't be proud per se, but you understand what I'm saying. And the thing is that if you want to get better, don't be afraid to take up a mentorship. Don't be afraid to go to, listen to how Shadow runs his game. Don't be afraid to go to 28 millimeter and see how he runs his game and how he uses descriptions and how he'll swap over on different accents or influences. Don't be afraid to go watch Critical Role. And I know that sounds like I'm not trying to sell you out, but I'm saying watch the GMs, listen to what they have to say and how they involve their players. And the GMs that get the most out of their players, they're not even really demanding anything out of them. It's more like they're just asking them a question. It's just a conversation with the parser additive of a mechanical bit. So, hey, listen, I know you want to jump across here. Make sure you have your acrobatics check over 22. And that's kind of how that works. That's all I want to add. And I don't want to monopolize this because we need to get back over to the rotation.
So I'm going to actually go over to Shadow over here. So What are some strategies that you use to integrate game mechanics into social interactions or gameplay elements?
I don't use them at all.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
It
So
takes
people
away
don't
from the
get
entire
certain
experience.
bonuses for interactions?
I'll take in their, if they have a bonus, I'll take that into account, and I'll use that, mentally. But like, I don't do reaction rolls ever. That's, to me, it's just another rule that I don't need. I base everything
Okay.
on, what do you say? And, I assume they're saying it in character, and I act as if, I role play the NPC, and I listen to what they say, and, their mannerisms, or their, if they're using their hands, or whatever, that sort of thing. And put myself in the position of the NPC, and how would I react if I was that NPC to what they're offering, or asking, or telling me, or whatever, and just role play it out. Just put yourself into the
Okay.
position, and hopefully they will do the same. And eventually they'll understand that this is the way we're going to do it. I'm not, roll these numbers that are going to arbitrarily tell me, for no particular reason, how they're going to act. It's about how the player role plays the situation, and just, take it for, basically face value. If they're good at it, eventually they'll get really good at it. Some people will get great at it, and they'll want to do that more, because I will reward that. Because when the end of the game comes, I hand out XP at the end of the game. I may even, pass them a note with, hey, XP for that, just as long as, we're not breaking up the game to, say, oh, you get 500 XP for that. I don't want to do that in the middle of the game, but while somebody else is doing something else, I'll maybe, secret squirrel them a note and tell them, hey, good role playing, here you go. And that's often enough, especially because I try to actually make that more of the reward experience than the combat. They'll get the base numbers, but most games give you more XP for combat, and I'm like, yeah, but does that move the story around? A lot of games give you, like 50, or, some really insignificant number, and which is part of the problem of murder hoboing, is they think that, well, if I kill, I get more than role playing. Well, I'm just going to go and murder hobo because I really want to get to third level. Well, if I tell them, hey, you guys get this much for combat at the end of the game, but so and so, you got this much for role playing, they're going to realize that, hey, role playing is the way to go. Let's do a little more town adventuring. Let's maybe talk to the monsters. Let's talk to each other, as opposed to just kick the doors down, kill the monsters, smash those open some chests, and rinse and repeat.
So you do use mechanical aspects to your game, because you said it yourself that you give more experience for role play.
Right. I thought you meant like in the process of the communication.
Yeah, for communication or for other effect, but that is also a mechanical aspect of the game, is XP and leveling. So you use the mechanical aspects of a game as a reward system for good role play or good interaction, then.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Like all things in life, it's the carrot or the stick, and some people are more susceptible to the carrot than the stick. Most people, I find, and they're there to be rewarded, whether it be through the story or the adventure or the gold. Well, some people like to, get a good old pat on the back for good role playing, and that I find is more enticing than, and conducive to better role playing.
So would you say that by rewarding players who go the extra mile and actually play a character rather than play dice, by rewarding that, would you say that you are building better role play gamers?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Eventually, if you do that, you'll find that everybody's trying to one up each other in the role play than the combat. We've seen every combat combination of, build characters and stats and, feats and all this garbage, but who cares? At the end of the day, we're going to remember the role playing. I think, the parts of the story that were exciting or interesting or, humorous. Humor plays a huge part. If you can role play your smart ass remarks and your jokes in character, those lines will be, memes or world famous at the table.
Okay. So Connell, I'm going to move the camera over to you for a moment. What mechanical aspects of the game do you like to use to encourage players to, instead of roll dice, to engage in actual talking more so? I mean, even if they have to roll dice, like, do you ever use the mechanics that are built into the game to role play?
Trying to find the right way to say this without arguing with Shadow. Oh, I could just argue with Shadow. That'd be fun too. Dick. I think that this game takes all types. This game brings all types to the table, and to not so much to disclude a certain type of player over another type of player, or for example, Greg. Bruce already brought this gentleman up. Greg, I love having him at the table. He can't RP for. I'm sure he could if he really wanted to, but he refuses to RP role play at all. But he is a function of the table that makes our collective work. So if you're trying to find ways to change said player or try to make them more like the other player, in a small way, I think you're doing them a disfavor. Because this game is not all about high-end Shakespeare bullshit, nor is it about murder hobo. There's got to be a happy medium. And if you got one guy at the table that doesn't want to do the highbrow Shakespeare bullshit and likes to do the murder hobo, where the rest of the players are kind of middle ground, and it doesn't drag your game, then I don't see why. Why would you want to change said player for the betterment of the table when the table works?
I wouldn't even invite them.
But you're missing
adventure game.
But that's fair. But you think all games should be dice free?
No, not all. Not
but
all.
Most you would prefer a dice free role play world.
No, not at all. I like a single diceless role playing game very, very much, because it is the perfect example of role playing, and it does use mechanics that allow for actual gaming as opposed to just a storyteller game. But if I say I'm going to play a role playing game, I want there to be role playing. Don't get me wrong, I play a lot of games that are technically adventure games, not role playing games. I can do all three. But if I say role playing, then I'm going to role play.
I think it takes all kinds to make this game work, and excluding one person.
I'm not going to say game. I'm going to say hobby in general. It takes all types to make the hobby work.
Okay, I'll rephrase that. It takes all kinds to make this hobby work, and excluding one because he or she or it, this is a brand new world, does not play at the perspective that you want, you're doing a disfavor to the hobby, because you're taking an element of the table or the hobby and saying, no, you're trash.
No, I don't think he's saying that.
I'm not saying him personally. I'm not
just not
directed at
role-playing session. We are talking about role-playing, not adventure gaming. They're two different things.
Okay, for example, Greg.
Well,
hold on.
There's
Vlad,
there
the character
there are
Vlad.
distinctions. I mean, there are distinctions to be made between role playing versus adventure playing, and I think that's where the main argument between role playing versus role playing. I think that's where it starts. Is you have your adventure players who go into dungeons, kick in doors, go back to town, get more loot to wash, rinse, repeat. That's very much adventure gaming. That's the role playing, not the role playing aspect. So there is some distinctions to be made there. And I'm not going to tell you that adventure playing is wrong. If that's what you find fun, go for it. Go forth and adventure.
I like you use Greg once again. He was playing this character named Vlad, who is no longer with us because he had a run in with the tiger and catnip.
Vlad.
What?
His name is Vlad.
Vlad. I thought that's what I said.
Vlad. You said Vlad.
Whatever. A V name. Anyways, because he found a scenario where putting a bag of holding in a portable hold might have been a good idea, which retrospect it kind of was and wasn't, all at the same time. He had to backpedal and roleplay just a little bit because his feet were taken to the irons, as it's been said. But letting that player, or mushrooms in my case, if you, I like to role play. I like to role play and role play. So I do, I enjoy both. Sometimes taking that person to the iron who just likes to roll the dice and make them find a way to. Did Kai fall asleep on us?
Maybe. He is muted, but anyway.
But I'm sorry, I saw the tilt. Having them put their feet to the iron, making them go outside of their comfort area every so often is a great idea. But if it depends on the game you're playing, letting a murder hobo, having one murder hobo in your campaign who works well with the rest of the team is not necessarily a bad thing.
If you're playing an adventure game, I couldn't argue. But if you're touting the game as a role-playing game, there better be some role-playing in it. And it should not be discouraged.
What if he's a mute? What if the person's a mute? His character doesn't talk.
Find another hobby.
I've played that character.
Why should they play another hobby?
Well, hold on. I can actually answer this one. So I actually played a gnome.
I thought you meant the player.
What if the player is playing a mute?
Okay, yeah. So no, I have done that.
I thought you meant the player is a mute.
Oh, no, we don't.
Yeah, that's what you did say, but if the player's mute, well, that's where ALS comes in, or ASL.
But American Sign Language. But what if the player can speak everyday English or whatever what the tongue of the country he lives in, but he decides, hey, I'm going to play a character that cannot talk. I am a mute in this character. So he could do.
You have to ask why.
Why not?
Because I'm a comedian.
I know a player who chose to play mute, but he did it because of because he was a little on the socially awkward side. 2, he was still role playing, but he did it through entirely actions, and he wanted to play he did it through
remarks,
comments. He didn't really say anything, but there was still the occasional grunt, the smirk, a little bit of a gesture, showing up and acting. He still was in character, but the personality was, he didn't talk, but he found ways to communicate without sign language through the gestures, body language, showing up. And because of the fact that people are like, oh, he doesn't talk, you can ignore him. He's like, and he was like, well, since everyone like no one's paying attention to me, I'm going to slip off and go do something else. While the party as acting as a distraction, he's out doing something weird, interesting, and different.
I also have played. I've actually had several ideas on how to play and have played a mute, gnomish wizard bard who was a mime.
I would kill you on the spot. Use of the magic.
And he used force-based magic. Forced and illusion-based magic. All of his equipment, including his weaponry, was permanency invisible. So when he pulled out a sword, like a just pantomimed a sword and stabbed somebody, and they started bleeding, they didn't understand why. It was glorious. It was very entertaining. But I still had role play aspects to it that weren't dice rolling. It was the whole pantomiming, because I took it to the nth degree that I myself did not talk unless I needed to explain what the character was doing. The game master appreciated it, but also hated it at the same time. Anyway, so Bruce, I think you're the only one who hasn't answered on this question. What
The question, please.
So this is including or giving mechanical advantage to players during role playing or social interaction, and how do you encourage or discourage even the mechanical aspects of role playing?
I really try to focus it until it's time to roll dice, that we don't roll dice. When the party is just kind of doing things to where they're at a point where they can split up and go do their own stuff within a large area, or maybe they've got a month to kill, I try to keep the dice out of my hands. And I try to reward people that are just kind of trying to take the bull by the horns and just role play. Like they're saying, I need to go talk to the shop. And after I get this order made for 16 tons of coal, I need to go to the magister and I need to talk to him about who I should ask for a permit. And once I do that, then I need to see if there's any way that I can get a break on a purchase of land. Do I need to make any rolls? That's the preferred way I would love to have a player talk to me during quote unquote downtime. And there's a real good reason to where, like in downtime, where like you should probably keep the die out of your hands, because you're just trying to get the player to fit in their character more. And by putting them into skill check mode, you really don't do anything but yank them out of character and reinforce this is a game and this is a mechanical process and this is I just need you to get in character and do what you would do. Just talk to me as you would talk to the shop owner, and then you're going to talk to the magistrate, and then maybe you're going to talk to a guildsman who has an extra 10 acres to sell. And just back and forth with me. And keep in mind that during that whole time, I mean, there might be some die rolling on my end behind the scenes, but there's not a whole lot where I'm encouraging them to roll dice. I don't want them to roll dice. And for me to keep a character in play longer, the more I want that to happen, the more the dice need to stay out of my hands. Because then things are happening and it could get chaotic, and I don't want to get chaotic, especially in downtime. Like I've got 9 people to go through. When I do downtime, I've got to go through 9 people as to what they and their cohorts are doing, if they actually have cohorts. If they have a band, a fellowship behind them, I need to know what they're doing too. How are you interacting with your followers? No, don't roll the dice. What are you doing? It's Monday. Tell me what you would do. You got 60 people that are at this hideout that believe in you, and they joined your cause after you got leadership. And this is the first time they've seen you in 3 weeks. You've got a few new scars. Tell me about you and how you interact with them. How are you interfacing with them? What do I need to set up a scene for you? Do I need to put some characters on a sheet for you and have the NPCs out there just kind of rummaging around doing stuff so you can see what they're doing? Well, yeah, let me see that. Okay. Well, they've got a few people that they're happy to see you back, and so they're going to give you your new linens or their new underwear or your new merchant wear that you're going to wear whenever you're in town, because that's something that some of them thought they would do for you. They're your followers for a reason. Mind you, there is a cost for all that. I need you to pull out about 20 gold out of your coffers because they need to eat and they need to go through, just things like milk, daily necessities, stuff like that. And you're not really paying them well. You're keeping them alive. You're almost a slave master, but we'll get into that later. I need you to tell me, what are you doing with them? Because they need to have like a reason to be here. You brought them here, but their morale's low. Tell me how you're interacting with them. And I try to get the player to just have a conversation with me. That's all I want to do. I'm not looking for anything more fancy than that. And that's the easiest way for me to keep a character in the role of their character.
Issues, Kai?
No, just the Bruce comment of it's Monday morning. How do you address all of your followers and staff? Well, first off, I'm going to start calling all of the important people. Like, where the fuck is my staff? I have them. I have this order. This TO and E here, where I have everyone's jobs listed off. And first off, that means I'm going to go first and go, I need my S1. Where the fuck is he? And drag his fucking happy ass over here and go, why is half my people beaten up and or in jail? Figure it out. Push that guy off over here. Pull the next guy over. Why the fuck is everyone beaten up and in jail? You just go work your way through it down to the point where it's like, I have an organization. I left to go save the world for 3 days, and I come back, and there's a lot of fucking problems now, and we're gonna fix problems, and all of you are fucked. And now that I'm back, and everyone's like, but boss, I'm not going to kill or maim or imprison any of you, but boy, a lot of you are not getting paid for the next 3 or 4 months until we get this fixed. And watching everyone kind of go scrambling around because the boss just got back to town, and yeah, fuck. Did none of you read? Yes.
Well, I think the last thing I want to touch on before we get into the starred comments that I think Baron has been starring.
I started a bunch of comments that.
Okay, you started. Okay. I do want to get into those. The last thing I want to touch on before getting into those, though, is when at a table, and this is, I think, a mechanical problem over a social problem. That's how I'm going to categorize role versus role, is mechanical versus, social versus mechanical. The one mechanical problem that I do not reward, as a matter of fact, I might even penalize at some points, is metagaming. Do you ever have to put quash a player who is taking player knowledge and applying it to character to basically get a one-up over everyone else at the table? Do you ever have to deal with that? I'm going to start this one with Connell.
I have such heartburn with a player that did the one-upmanship with me and a few other people for the better part of my very beginning of me gaming. I just it left a bad, I just got heartburn from it. I understand not every character is built like the next. Some characters have their moment in the light. Paladins and clerics. Well, if you're having a holy-ish moment, or if that in the thieves and so forth, will all have their moments. But if I got somebody who the situation very fits for, we're in the church, and the cleric is talking to somebody, and the rogue out of nowhere sticks his freaking, not his nose, but his whole face into the situation, trying to one up the cleric as we're in a particular scene of that session. I find I won't penalize the player outrightly, but things like that, game karma has a way of biting them in the ass. It's not me personally going after them. That's not what I'm saying. It's not because that's not how a DM should be. But I game karma has a way of biting them in the ass. I've noticed. That's kind of all I have to say for the most part.
Sure. I'm gonna move this one over to Bruce real quick. So, Bruce, how do you handle metagaming at your table? Like, what are the things you do?
I really could just play the movie the Gamers Part 2 Darkness Rising and show you guys how a good DM handles shit like that, because like there's a part in that where the party dies at the start of the movie, and so they roll up new characters and they have to go through the same part of the adventure as their last characters did, but they don't know that. Your characters don't know this, and we don't really talk in out of character knowledge versus in character knowledge, and I really wish we would have covered that. We've got 24 minutes. Go. Whenever you're playing your game, you want to keep the things your character knows separate from what you know as a player. Well, that isn't really too well enforced at this table, and so 3 of the 4 players are telling the new player, "Hey, stop trying to talk to NPCs. We know where we're going." And the GM's like, "No, you don't. She's got the right idea. Let her do this." And so she talks to a farmer, and one of the other characters, who I'm going to refer to as Greg, if Greg was playing a female sorcerer, decides to lob a 4th level fiery doom spell at the peasant and annihilates him. Says, "Come on, let's go. The quest is over here." And the GM is like, "What the fuck? What are you doing?" He's like, "Dude, we've already been through here." And he's like, "You don't know that." And this movie goes through all of the situations that amateur GMs happen to have at their tables. And I will continually stress you should probably watch this just for fun, but take notes, because there's a lot of good lessons to be learned in it. As my own personal self, when I have a character at the table that uses a lot of metagaming bullshit to try to succeed in my table, I will often play the game of one-upmanship and probably smash. I have a very limited palette of things I allow out my game. I don't allow extra books with extra races, extra feats, extra garbage. Pathfinder's rich with that, just with the core set. I know there are some people, even in panel, that think, "Bruce, open up a little bit. Come on, let's have some stuff." No, there's a theme I'm running. There's a theme that I'm running, and the reason why I'm running with that theme is that it works for this campaign world. Now, there are other places where you do find the small special things. You find the small special things where, like, you can play a ratkin or you can find a kitsune, but you literally have to go to those locations in the game world in order to find them, because thered be no reason for them to be wandering around Eastern Europe. They're not there. They're not. You have to go find somewhere that's basically Sarpang or Trepang or some small place in the Orient of this world for you to find those things. And if you're not going to find them. I'm sorry, but I tell players that use the things your character knows. And when the characters come up with an idea that sounds suspicious, like they just pulled it from the real world or I just read this on the internet, I typically will let them get to a certain point and then find absolute failure. I don't really want them to use things that would be beyond their ability. I want them to come up with something organically, not to try to cheat it by, I just found this on the web. No, no, you need to come up with a better plan. So otherwise, I'm going to treat it like you rolled a failure. So let's go back and let's try to rework this. And that's typically what I do. I know that sounds be heavy-handed, but I have 9 players at my table, and I need them to try to function as a group that's hanging out with each other, not as a group of miscreants or other individuals that just metagame and try to murder hobo their way throughout the entire world without provocation. I don't need that. So I know that's probably not the right way to do things too. There's probably a better way to do it. But for my means, whenever I have a player that's trying to use things that would be out of the norm for this campaign world, I need to have a very stern Q&A session like, why and how did you come to this conclusion? I need to know what you're doing. And I try to put concepts in my campaign world about like ley lines, how alchemy works, and things like that, to where players can actually try to wrap their hands around it and get an idea as to how to interact with these super concepts that do not exist in our own world. I think that's kind of a fun way to do that.
I'm going to move it to Shadow. How do you deal with metagame or outside knowledge being added to a character, not necessarily the player?
Can you give me an example?
Okay, so for example,
I don't run a lot of fantasy games, so
sure.
A lot of things that would be considered outside knowledge aren't outside knowledge.
Okay, so for example, and I'll even use sci-fi. I'll take my experience and put it into a sci-fi setting. I'm a lawman. I am sitting by a campfire, trying to collect my thoughts and wrap my thoughts around something I've just experienced or went through. And an NPC, a third-party NPC, because I've been dealing with 2 major groups. And this third-party NPC comes up and approaches me with a third option or a third way of getting to my goal. But the things I know about this third party, as told by parties A and B, is that party C should never be trusted ever. So I'm engaging in conversation with party C, and I'm alone. It's just me and party C. And I'm exchanging and kind of keeping my words guarded so I don't give too much away. One of my fellow party members decides that because they have the ability to fly, they're going to go up in the middle of night to survey the area so they can use their dark vision or night vision to make maps of the lay of the land at night. Limited out to 120 feet, because that's how that works. So they see me talking to something. They don't know what it is. So they decide to come down to my area. Now, I had started this conversation with this third party after they had already said that they are going to be going somewhere else and doing something else. And now that person wants to be involved in the scene that I am in. For whatever reason, I kind of tuned out when they joined the scene. So how would you handle that scenario where the other player is coming into the scene to interact with outside knowledge?
Basically, they just want to be where the action is.
Yes.
I'd say,
they want to be a scene hog.
I would say, well, when you're done mapping, because that's what you told me you were doing, and you have no reason to do otherwise until you're done mapping, not a problem.
Okay.
Otherwise, just find a way to use their own previous statement. You said you're doing this. You have no reason to stop doing this. Oh, you want to be over here now? Then I would ask them, why do you want to be over here now instead of completing the task that you were already engaged in? Because I as much as I hate, disrupting or some sort of a game immersion, if there's an egregious enough offense, I'll stop it right then and there and lay down the law. We don't do this, okay? Or if it's weak and we can just move on real quick, I'll address it after the game. And it's like, look, guys, you all get your turn, you all got your things to do, you all get your chance in the spotlight. There's no reason for you to, you could have actually gone over to your character and missed something important because you decided to be a scene hog, or you could be wasting time and come over here and absolutely get nothing accomplished because this conversation is going on between Jaide and the other people. Why would you even do that? This sounds like, I let them know. It sounds like you're just trying to be, a scene hog. Do your thing. You're going to get your XP for doing your thing. He's going to do his thing, and I will address the offense by whatever slang term it's being used at to let them know, like scene hog. Okay, dude, you're being a scene hog. Knock it off. You'll get your turn in a minute. Just
Okay.
Be brutal, be honest, but be fair.
Okay. I'm going to throw this one to Baron. I haven't heard from you in a little while. So, Baron, how do you handle metagaming?
It happens once. That's all I have to say. It happens once. So, for instance, all of a sudden, someone, the characters have come across a monster that they haven't faced before. Oh, well, it's weak to fire. How do you know it's weak to fire? Well, it's weak to fire.
Everything's weak to fire.
Yeah, but how do you know it's weak to fire? Have you studied this? Was this in your studies as a barbarian of the northern wilds while we're in the southern jungles? Is this really something that you would actually know? But everyone knows it's weak to fire. No. You know it is. Your player doesn't. From that point on, the character knows not the player knows not the character. From that point on, I start putting templates on everything. Why? Because you decided you knew everything there was to know about all my monsters. Guess what? Now you don't know nothing. Oh, look.
Now it's pseudo-natural.
Oh, what was that?
Oh, no, a pseudo dragon. He hits you for 1 point of damage. Take 4 points of con drain. What? Yes. Yes.
Hey, Baron, do you
Yes.
have the advanced bestiary?
No, I don't.
You need to find that and add that to your repertoire because it is a monster enhancer that it will literally it will compound the amount of monsters you have by factors you weren't aware of. For every book you have, it's 100 monster templates.
Yeah, but that's
giants and to ninjas.
Because typically, what most of the players is a lot of times they cannot, especially with monsters. When you explain what they are and everything else, most players are going to be like, "Oh yeah, that's a GQ. Oh yeah, that's a wyvern. Oh yeah, that's a." But as for it's trying to get them to understand that the players know, but your characters don't. You know what the weaknesses are. Characters you're playing don't. That's the huge thing, and that's one thing. I'm going to use traveling. If let's say they're from a remote part of the galaxy, and then they're traveling, and they come across the Hiver, and they shake hands with the Hiver. Well, in Hiver society, you just had sex with the Hiver. That's how they procreate. That's the thing, is that you don't know when you shake hands with that Hiver, that's what you just did. Now that Hiver's in love. Y'all shook up.
Now I will no longer shake hands or pick up pennies. Thanks for adding to my list.
Yes. But that's the thing. It's if they try to assume something, that's the reason. Like especially with why thieves, I do like to break out the old Grimtooth tomes and use those. I think my favorite one is there's a ledge that's about 10 foot wide, and then a 5 foot walkway that goes out about 50 feet, and then there's a center pedestal that has the chest on it. Well, the entire party is going to stay back at where we're on that ledge and say, "Yeah, you rogue, you go get him." The rogue pops everything. He does it all right. As soon as he takes the treasure out, all of a sudden the wall behind the rest of the party just pushes them all into the pit. Because that's what Grimtooth does. Those are kind of the evil, diabolical things that Grimtooth does.
I might need to get a copy of this tome.
Oh,
Online.
yeah, you can find them very easily. But yeah, that's the thing is if they think that they know all the answers, change the question.
All right, Roddy.
Literally, that's what it is. You change the question. If they think it's multiple choice, it's an essay. Yeah, that's what you have to do. Because and sometimes even with and I suggest actually doing this from the very beginning is especially with seasoned players doing this is before they even have a chance to meta, just for the simple fact of 9 times out of 10 they're going to know what they're going to be up against and they're going to meta game their way through it, whether they mean to or not. They're going to. Connell,
the fuck did I say?
I've been at tables with you, and you've done this.
I've gotten better.
Connell, listen, there are some things you're really good at. There are other things other habits
Don't
I
quit
wish you
your day
could give
job.
up.
Hey, it's ironic you bring this up. I was kind of talking about this last night on deception and lying to your players. And I use trolls, for example. Everybody knows that fires, stop trolls from regenerate. Change it up. Use acid. Use lightning. Use the power of love. I don't know, milk. Yes, a troll is about ready to grow back his arm. What do? I go up and give it a great big hug, and it stops growing and now has just a little bitty arm, like a baby arm and a manly arm. It's all fucked
Baby
up.
legs.
Baby
It
legs.
looks huge with this.
Yeah.
All right, but no, that's typically what I do. Is that especially if I have a more experienced group at the table, I'll just flip the script and completely change the rules on them because number one, your players will actually appreciate it because then they're like, wow, this is like me. It may even bring back some nostalgia of, wow, I remember this is kind of how I felt when I first started playing because they didn't have that foreknowledge. And typically it'll make it a more enjoyable experience for them.
Okay, so last person on the panel, Kai, how do you quash the meta?
Usually much akin to what Baron said. Most of my players don't, since I don't really use monsters. The bulk of my monsters are either originals or they're out of obscure books or they're humans. I use predominantly humans as my villains or humanoids as villains. So they're all class creatures anyway. So whenever somebody goes, so most of my meta is usually what happens when somebody goes, hey, I know what's going on, and at which point I start to pull out the no you don't fucking know shit option. And they're like, what do you mean? And at which point I'm going, I have actually put a lot of thought into this stuff. And have you taken into consideration communication delays and vocal ranges? And how are you communicating? I have magic. Are you casting it? When suddenly they have to go. I run through the entire communications game. bordering on, some rather crazy levels of shit. And suddenly they're all going, oh, I don't actually have, yeah. And we start cracking down on them, or I know what's going on here. No, you don't. And they start to slowly learn that, yeah, depending on magic is only a one, this thing, or they like, this is what they are. Like, no, did you take your profession? Are you is your training in military? Can you read what unit banner and armbands and badges they're all wearing? Are you able to identify their equipment at approximately 500 feet? No, I don't think you did. I don't think you are. And so when they start using meta on me, and my other favorite thing is when they start trying to out meta each other, and like, oh, I'm prepared for what so and so is. How did you get that information? And I will take people aside and go, all right, how did you get that information? And explain to me all that you've done, because I'm used to playing. I'm used to GMing and running Elysium and Mage Ascension levels of games where we're playing technocracies, or I'm used to playing high-end clan war, Legend of the Five Rings clan politics in Winter Court games where there's not a single fight for months on end. And I'm going, you better, if you're going to use that information, you'd better tell me exactly how you've gotten it. And at which point most players go, I didn't put that much thought into it. Oh, no. There's repercussions. You know this, right? What? You get no backsies. There is no takebacks here. You've made the mistake of getting into an intelligence fight. So you can know what you know, but you're not subtle at it. And excuse me, I'm going to now excuse you. You go back to the main party, send player 2 out. And suddenly player 2 comes out. So let me explain to you what player 1 has been doing, and make a simple roll. All right, here's what you know. Here's what information you can provide. Now, what are you doing? Oh, and this, well, blah, 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 blah. All right, I need you to go back to the room and send player 3 out. And I will sit there for hours on end running this one-on-one intel thing. It's like, so if you dare try to use meta on me, meta knowledge on me, I will happily go, oh, no. We're going to go see where this leads to and how bad this can fuck up. Which, after a while, after you had your face rubbed in it, and usually ends in, a high velocity lead sleeping dart being injected into your body, you tend to learn. And I will either change information, because obviously, really, do you know what's going on in you, Sean? Really? Do you? No, you don't. But you don't. But do I see sidereal on your sheet? No, then you don't. And but no, you don't know shit. But the book says, what? You read that book? I did. Congratulations. Yeah, it's wrong. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I know. Isn't it suck? But I know what the Crane Clan's up to. Do you? Do you really? And because I run a more politically intrigue-heavy games, they're like, but I know their dark secret. No, you don't. But, correction, you do. But they know you know. Oh, no. Yeah. It's going to get very bloody here really, really soon. I hope you're good at dueling. Oh, shit. Yeah. It really is a whole lot of the magic of dueling masters, hit marks, and Lion Dog showing up. Tends to curtail metagaming really fucking fast. When the dimensional police show up there and beat you senseless, and then drag you off, and then drag you off, and then put your clone from 5 hours ago, who has no idea what's going on, back in your place, and would technically we can't kill you. We're going to kill you, but we're putting a duplicate of you from an earlier timeline where you were. Don't do this again. What? Where am I? Good job. Go. And like I have a lot of fun ways of punishing you and not punishing you in interesting ways, depending on what game we're playing. So it really just comes down to metagaming with me is fun for me.
But only you.
But only me.
Well,
And maybe other players.
I kind of have a question, but I just realized what time
Go
it
ahead,
was.
ask it.
What if you got kids not metagaming whatsoever, but you have a Jack Ryan at your table? You like Jack Ryan at the table, not the former politician from Illinois, but the Tom Clancy.
Question. Which version of Jack Ryan are we talking about here? Are we talking about the Red Storm Rising, Cardinal of the Kremlin era of Jack Ryan? Or are we talking about superhero, badass, super agent Jack
We're
Ryan?
talking about the book one.
So Hunt for October, Jack Ryan. Okay.
Right. Who's just really good at putting shit together.
That's different. If he puts together clues of what's going on here and figures out, oh shit, today's the anniversary of his wife's death and he's going to go steal the submarine. Fuck yeah. Congratulations, you have put 400 disparate pieces together and now have a very confused admiral and senator looking at you like, what the fuck, boss? But if my player is sitting here going, if my Jack Ryan at the table sits back and goes, I already know exactly where he's heading, and why? Because I looked over your GM sheet, and I saw that you had a very intricate plan of where every map full of compasses and plotting charts telling you where everything's at, and I've already figured it out. Okay. Congratulations, asshole. You're gonna get shocked and drowned. I'm gonna beat you senseless.
He's gonna be keyholed.
Right. I like that. Metagaming is fun for me. That's a good album.
So Bruce, Baron, did you guys want to get to the starred comments?
I believe that was Bruce that was starring this.
That was me. I was.
Okay.
I just, like I said, just curious there, guy, because
No, it's okay. You mentioned my favorite book and movie, so therefore I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what scene we're talking about here. So
I like that.
So here we have Flady. One issue I feel should be addressed in many game systems is when a character knows more than the player, and I feel it's intimidating to new people. Do we want to comment on this? Go ahead, Jaide. Start it off.
Let me you unstart. Okay. No, it's fine. I'm just gonna make my screen bigger so I can actually read it. My eyes have gone to fuzz for the day.
Okay.
So the one issue I feel should be addressed better in many game systems is when characters know more than player, and I feel intimidating. Okay, so when characters know more, so the way I handle character knowledge when it's more than the player's knowledge, I tend to brief the player like, hey, here's the knowledge your character knows. These are the like 6 hard truths of the world that your character just knows. And these are common truths that all characters know. You the player don't have to know this knowledge, but your characters will. So go with that assumption. Now there are certain times where the character, because of certain jobs or skills or whatever they've chosen as backgrounds for their character, they get to know certain knowledges about whatever those skills, backgrounds, or whatever are. And I handle that on like session 0. Like, here's what your character knows. This is the knowledge you start with. Even if you, the player, don't understand how it works, that's fine. The character knows. We just proceed from there. Anyone else want to touch that one?
It's
if my
tricky.
character
Go for it.
if the character knows more than the player does, which is pretty much any game you're ever going to play is not set in the modern day, I tend to just go. I don't want to say you get a roll, but I do tend to give little prods and nods saying, "Hey, your character." I listen for questions like when players ask, "Hey, does my character know anything about this?" Yeah, you might, and then give them a little bit of a nudge. Don't tell them. Don't info dump. By God, never info dump on them. But go, yeah, you might know a little bit, and then pass a note to them. Let them decide how they're going to do this, how they're going to use the information. And because honestly, I am not a wizard. I know I'm not a wizard. I'm not a cleric. I don't have a direct line to Bob, who can grant me powers. I don't know how to say the incantations to bring back the dead.
Hell,
Surprise!
Bob.
I know, right? And nor do I know how to open dimensional gates and cast fireballs, but my character does. So when I go, hey, is there a possibility of me? Hey, can my character roll a little bit of spellcraft? Because this sounds kind of mystical bullshitty, and I don't feel like having my brain set into another dimension because I opened the book wrong. Can I possibly have a... Yes, you can try to do something interesting, or I'll give you some clues. Because honestly, you need to have a little bit of a prod every once in a while. Otherwise, you're playing, Call of Cthulhu, where the entire point of the game is I want to die a horribly interesting way. Excuse me while I eat a shotgun around because I looked into a sextant wrong. Blech, boom.
I automatically now do not want calamari.
Yeah. You don't.
Anyone else for player knowledge versus character knowledge?
I just want to reiterate, earlier I had a bad answer on that, and Garrett kind of showed me what I do because he mentioned if my players start saying that they know what this character does or this monster, I just add templates to it. And I've got a bunch of templates. I've got a book that actually capitalizes on it called the Advanced Bestiary, and I always talk about that book, especially with Biggest Geekus, because I want Joe and Randy to play better, which means I want them to have more crunchy games. Everybody gets more crunchy games. And that's my favorite thing to do is to give something templates. It causes me about a 30-second hiccup as my brain processes all the little special abilities they get and what things might be lost. But after that, roll on and enjoy just the shocked look of butthurt from your players. And I know that sounds really vindictive, but please don't try to come to the table where
I know about this world more than you do, even though it's not a published campaign world that I would value because it's not Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk, and it's definitely not Paizo's Galarian, but whatever.
Sorry. Okay, so anybody else want to think about this comment here from Lady One?
No, I think it's been covered.
Okay. Next starred comment is Mr. Six Nation 31 Kings. So hello, sir, and welcome back. One of my characters came from a poor background. His newfound wealth as an adventurer allowed him to eat rich foods. Any chance he got, he'd gorge on roast meats, sausages, and fine wine. No more pottage and Bailey bread for this country bumpkin. And
I feel sorry for his GI tract.
So, we were discussing this at the time, and this is kind of the life thing that I had happen. And what happened with me was that I went in the oil field. I went from a $24,000 a year job to $74,000 a year job. So I could afford doing things like this and really expand my palette and, experience stuff I hadn't before. So I completely understand this from a personal aspect, and I love to role play this sort of thing because I do want to get an 18-year-old kid and be like, hey, kid, I know you like hamburgers and steak, but have you ever tried brisket? And this is a mustard-based barbecue sauce, a little bit of tang on it. It's not very high in a Scoville. It's only about 4,000 Scovilles. It'll have a little zest to it like a Cholula, but try it out. And I love seeing their face explode as they're like, oh my God, where have I been all my life?
And there's a dead Connell because you said the magic word.
Scoville?
Yeah, if it's Scoville, I'm dead.
Wasabi.
Wasabi doesn't. I don't think wasabi has. That's horseradish, not peppers. I don't know if it has the same. Works on the same scale.
Scoville is just a level of hotness.
Oh, I thought
Level
it was mainly a
heat.
pepper
Nope.
thing.
It's not about capsaicin. It's just the level of heat.
Okay, other than horseradish, I'd be dead. Or spicy mustard.
I really like what he was talking about here, and we kind of went into this a little bit further. And because I'm like, well, because of my habits I developed in the oil field, now I have to have a job because I love this stuff. And so if you can kind of impart that into your game world, where like you really don't want to eat ramen noodles and Vienna sausage again, then that should provide at least a small reason for your players to actually want to have their characters adventure. I know. Go ahead.
How do you feel about pie?
I'm not a big guy for that.
No pie?
No pie.
I think I ruined pie for Shadow.
No. You know what fucking ruined pie for me, fucker? It was never your game. Your game didn't touch pie for me. What ruined pie for me was when me, Sean, and Garrett were at the game store watching Carl order a fucking pecan pie the day after Thanksgiving, and they try to get that man a plate, but he instead folds the
New Year's
pie in half
Eve.
and starts to chug it, and his jaw disgorges from it unhinges from his jaw the way it's not supposed to. And we see the gnomes pop out of his beard, forcing the crumbs of crust and the pieces of creamy pecan stuffing going to his pie hole. So I never want to fucking touch a pie with my mouth ever again. Ever. I got PTSD from this shit. I need reparations. I'm done. The gnomes fucked me.
Where did the bad bearded man touch you?
In the pie?
More people who have been scarred for life over stupid shit. I love it.
On the basis of role play, on role playing at your table, this is something that I could see Shadow doing this, especially where like he's letting a character go out and about and just kind of browse around in the plazas and such, and somebody just kind of starts to fuck with him a little bit. And that's kind of what you want to do in a campaign if you've got the ability to get time to where you can allocate to where you can have encounters happen to your players, or sometimes you're going to fuck with them, but you want to have that happen. You want to have that not be used over much, but to where they can have a social encounter, or they could have a challenge, or they could have a throwdown. But I could see them presenting a challenge and then just letting the player decide how they want to get buried. Is it going to be just through social die rolls? Is it going to be because this guy makes him look like an absolute fool and a bore? Is it going to be because he's going to be outclassed? I can see Shadow doing more of that at his table. He doesn't.
If you remember, I actually did that in my when I did my my one shot.
Yeah.
With Jade, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm misspeaking for anybody here, let me know.
No.
Okay.
I completely agree with that. And it doesn't even have to be the proverbial pissing contest. I mean, it's like, for instance, I had a campaign I was running that they wound up in the winter court of the Fae, and they introduced, they were introduced to the knight, who had a duster and a hat, the hat with a hockey stick, and the sorcerer and the knight decided to throw a little magic around just to see. And then they got to talking about, well, how can you cast that without talking? And they started talking shop. stuff like that. Yeah, I pulled Dresden in out of the Dresden books with
No, I got Dresden. It was the hockey stick that only made an appearance in the show. It never made an appearance in the book.
Yeah, it did.
In the book?
First book.
No, he always had an old oak staff that he got from McCoy's property.
Well, I decided he had a hockey stick.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It just
was fun
from the show. That's fine. It just threw me off.
But it's still I brought in additional tropes that everyone, as soon as I started describing it, you've seen everybody's face go, "Oh my god," and everything else, and that's the thing, is that you start bringing in stuff like that. That's another way you draw them in.
Okay, back to the starred comments real quick.
You did that one.
That one. Here we go. Next one. Spellslingers may need to consult the local apothecary, the sage, or fellow guild member for info on spell, component, or weakness to a critter or baddie. Yeah, I want to have those things actually role played out and not handled by just a die roll.
I rolled a 32 on my arcane knowledge. I need to know everything about this monster. Please go ahead and read to me the entirety of page 442 out of Bestiary number 4.
I don't want to fucking do that. I want to actually have you RP that. I want to actually have that RP because that way the other players that aren't at the scene can at least see that and be encouraged to do that. Because I do want to have RP at the table. I do want to have possible RP awards. I think role-playing is a valuable part of the game, and it's one way that you can use the RP at the table to actually overcome your foes. If you go into a battle with no wits or knowledge about what's going on, you're going to get your ass handed back to you. Anybody have a comment on this?
No, I agree. I think a lot of that should be role played out.
I do, but I'm too tired. I'm going to have to excuse myself at this point. Brain's not working too good.
Kai, it was a pleasure.
404 air, blue screen of death. Kai's gone.
Bye, everybody. Love you. Good night.
Oh, he must be sleepy. He told people he loved them. That's outright lie.
I hate you too. Bye.
Have a good weekend, bro.
What's the next one?
I'm sorry.
That was appropriate for Kai. I mean, I can't.
Cover the basics, your combat, your role play, and problem solving types. Get a segment of the time to shine. How you engage role play in these situations, a bit of a work, but it's doable. I think you hit it right there. We want to have more of the in character development, and I think as long as you're able to voice that to the players, where you're conveying that you're in character. You don't need to talk to me as Tom, the welder. Talk to me as Tomas, the son of the merchant who's trying to get to the second rank in the swordsman's guild. That I'd be okay with. Anybody have anything they want to add to this?
Nope.
All right. Reminds me of my 4th grade production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I enjoyed the books and the OG movie. I ended up playing Augustus Gloop. You just jump right in. No way I was going to be Oompa Loompa. I wasn't going to let him turn me into an Oompa Loompa for the stage play. I like that. That actually made me laugh whenever I read that. Like, no, just jump right in. Start RPing. Start doing it right now.
So what did you do? Sit around and eat?
Oh, it's a chocolate.
I mean, that's basically what that character did. Just sat around and ate everything.
Hey. The Gamer Bunch. The Gamer Bunch. That's the way I lost monetization. Oh, my bad.
Well, that show was like on 100 years ago, it feels like, so you should be good.
I still watch Marsha.
I bet you do.
Marsha.
sometimes you just got to jump in the water and learn to swim, no matter how badly you do it. Yeah, and that's just the entire thing about role playing. Sure, you're not going to be captain of the debate team within the first like 3 or 4 sessions, but by the end of the campaign, you should be like what Garrett did with Father or Brother Reynaldo, and he was the one that the characters were looking to the whole time. Like whenever there's something going on that he could definitely fix or chime in on, he was always valued for his thoughts and his perspective. Anybody else have an anecdote for this? Because I know you guys have had plenty of people in your campaign that have came out of their shells after about session 5 or 6.
My son Laszlo, when we were all living down in Nashville, that was the first time he ever got to role play, and I was doing the very beginning scenes of Rise of the Runelord, just kind of doing it with them so I can get comfortable with the system because I just bought it, or the module because I first got it. And there's a scene in the very beginning of the book where the village is raided by gobos. And he fully gets out in character. He's like, what time of the day it is? I'm like, it's early morning. He's like, all right, this is what I do. I start making breakfast, bacon and eggs, and a toast. I'm like, okay. Then I go outside. Hi, Mr. Goblin. Would you be interested in some bacon and eggs and not burning down my house? And just went fully into Mr. Rogers type, talking to the goblin as if it's his younger brother. I had to excuse myself from the table because I was laughing so hard I damn near pissed myself. So for a kid who is on the spectrum and is willing and just jumped into a game that he's never played. He's never really played, but he's seen me play it, full head in first, doing things not exactly the way that they probably should be handled. I think his character got ganked like the second session, but that's besides the point. But just doing it the way he was, he jumped right into it. He knew how he wanted to play his character, and he went for it. And it was really cool. Fuck.
What's going on?
Fireworks. I don't do well with fireworks.
I thought that was lightning, but okay.
No, we could use some rain.
No, we don't. We haven't had appreciable rain since April.
Yeah, we haven't had it for a while. We had about an hour of it, but it was dry within like an hour.
The last storm we actually got was, knock your house down kind of winds. So, and that was in early April.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. The loudmouth doesn't do really well with fireworks or loud crowds.
I want to say thank you to Flady for this. He says, my work background in entertainment is critical hits and Bruce's games. One thing I really appreciate is that a lot of people that watch us, they'll go through our entire library of stuff to keep themselves occupied while they're doing their job. So
why?
If I help you earn a check, if there's something that we're doing right, appreciate it. Let us know.
I want somebody to write a dissertation on why putting a bag of holding into a portable hole is a bad idea from the chat. That would be amazing. From the chat, not from you.
Well, doing it anyways.
Take care of yourself, Freeman's Focus.
Take care, buddy.
It's only a war crime that's not a war crime the first time.
Yeah. All right. Hey, NZT, TNT Gaming, how you doing?
NZ? Yeah, he did a long stream last night.
Cool.
He was playing. I think he hit 24 hours. I don't know. I fell asleep before he finished. But
on what service? YouTube?
Twitch. He was playing SnowRunner, and he was giving away a game of Steam copy of SnowRunner last night. He had pretty good numbers, so big kudos to him. Big applause. Good job, buddy.
Big plus. Big plus. All right. I think that's everything for tonight that we wanted to cover. Do you have anything else you want to add to this? Anybody here at all?
Role play more often.
Read more Dresden Files.
Just read books. In
Read
general,
good
doesn't
book.
matter.
There's a lot of bad books
Pick
out
books
there.
and read them.
Read good books.
Read the good book.
Read good books.
I've
Like the little-
Shadow. I've already done that 4 times, cover to cover.
Yeah, I know. Or read the Little Red Book.
Good for you.
You can get multiple different languages.
So
Mainly, Chinese.
So
Read the Art of War. There you go.
Shadow, I
Read
see
that
your
multiple times.
Shadow, I see you're uploading a lot more materials here. It looks like you've got a really good system going on. Anything in particular you're going to be uploading here in the next 7 days?
Tomorrow I'm doing another eBay video. Friday game. Saturday I'll do the Shadow Chat, of course, and followed up by the Quantum Show over at Nathan Allen's channel. Hanging out with Connell on Saturday and the boy, reviewing one of the. Well, just come and see. Then I'm in Rick's game on Sunday night, 8:30 California avocado time. And I have no idea about the next week because we're working on some behind the scenes projects and working for some other game companies, and that's keeping us really freaking busy right now.
Sounds like good. I mean, I like busy people, dude. So you're not hurting my feelings.
You should see the boy. My son is up first thing in the morning, like he's got a job. Well, he technically does now, working for well, anyways, first thing in the morning, on the computer and typing away, doing his thing, and hopefully you guys get to see the fruits of his labors real soon.
Wait. How old is he?
And he's already working for a game company, so.
And first thing on the computer. Okay.
But he's
That sounds awesome.
working for a game company. Yeah, you should see his work. It's actually pretty stellar.
That's awesome.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Connell,
You
what are
guys
you
will be blown away.
say again, Shadow?
You guys will be blown away when you see it. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Tomorrow I will be not filming it, but hopefully tomorrow I will be playing Warhammer Fantasy, the game that brings you. Yes, there are rat people underneath every city, but no, we do not talk about it. You don't have to go to Eastern Europe to find them; they're already underneath their town. That was Friday. Then Saturday, you'll find me hanging out with Bruce, and a bunch of other people talking to these fire giants and trying to explain to them the error of our way. I mean, their way, of course. Sunday, me, Shadow, Jack, Omenow, Mark, and whoever poor dumb bastard decides to join us will be reviewing the Battle Wizard, the movie that brings you. I can't believe I just watched that movie type of feelings. The movie that brings alcoholism to a whole new understanding. The movie that Jack picked for Foreign Month. So keep in mind, everybody, this next coming month, or this, what?
It can't be as bad as Boondock Saints that turns drinking into a sport.
You shut your whore mouth.
I meant on the drinking aspect, but
I can't believe that just fucking happened. Anyways, well, we'll be doing this coming month or next 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, however it works out. We'll be doing foreign films. And Jack got the first pick, because he will be leaving us for a while to visit family somewhere else. So he picked Blue Wizard. Then it will be my pick, and so forth and so on. So that's what I got going on.
With Jack gone, you can actually watch some adult films like Dragon Pink, right?
Or
Belay that. Nope.
Oh, I was thinking, if I can find South Park the movie in Spanish, that's a foreign film, right?
Jade, are you working on anything as of right now?
As of right now, I am trying to figure out what the next Gatekeepers episode is going to be. If you're not aware, either on my channel, Connell's channel, or Shadow's channel is Gatekeepers every Wednesday evening. And we discuss topics of gaming. It's typically questions that are asked. So we provide answers to the question, and we kind of dive into the topic a bit. So yesterday we had talked about deception and plot twists. So go check it out on my channel if you want to. But beyond that, I have coming up this coming Saturday actually is Free RPG Day. So I'm going to be going out to one of my local game stores, and I'm actually going to be running content through the day. The game store I'm going to be at is Cabbages and Kings in Peoria Heights, and I'll be running 3 sessions, 2 hours apiece, of The Fall of Arnor, a index card RPG one-shot set in the Warp Shell setting. And that's what I've got going this weekend.
Sounds great. Baron G-Rock is currently dealing with some technical issues. Hopefully, by the time I finish up here on my dissertation or my schedule, what we have coming up for me is Sunday. Saturday, we've already talked about it. There's going to be a game that I run. On Sunday, about 7 o'clock, I'm going to be doing a bit of a live stream from Discord. And if you want to be involved with that, let me grab you this Discord link.
There, guys.
Oh no, the cops, they found me.
You finally caught me.
You finally got me.
What was that Ron White joke? You finally caught me. Tater salad.
Tater.
All
right. So there's a link for Discord there. That'll take you to my channel. Sunday, about 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a watch party for the Gamers Darkness Rising. If there's an alternate location, I'll let people know through that Discord link, but that should be in my channel. And we're going to be breaking Janet in. This is her first time watching this movie because it's a fantastic film. It's probably, I like this movie better than the Dungeons and Dragons movie I just watched from 2023. I think this is a fantastic way to introduce people into the hobby. And it is a fairly honest depiction of the game itself. So I recommend, if you've got nothing else going on Sunday at 7 p.m., swing on by, hang out with us. There's going to be a few people in the chat room, and we'd love to have you. And then Monday night, Janet and I will be talking about the Gamers Darkness Rising because she's never seen it. So that's why I've got to show this movie to her. This is an absolute must-have. And if you like the polyhedral, if you like mathematical click-clack rocks, you really need to see this film. If you haven't yet, it came out in 2008. If you have not seen it yet, this is probably one of the best depictions of the hobby on film today. Now, Tuesday night, I'm going over to my friend 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser, and we have Toxic Male Tuesday Appreciation. We discuss some horrible movie. And when I say right now, we're watching Chuck Norris in The Hitman from 1991. So if you want to see us talk glowingly about a mullet and a movie with really bad cinematography, swing on by there. I'll get to the link in the chat here in just a second. Garrett, do you have anything you'd like to add on your upcoming schedule?
You're muted. Well, not muted.
Is
but
that? I think he's still having audio issues.
He is reviewing silent films.
On Tuesday, I'll be over here. That's it. Baron G-Rock, you have an upcoming video that you're getting ready to release, don't you? No? Oh, you're still in editing mode. Okay. All right. Well, for everybody here at Tablebreakers. I'd like to say thank you for making it this far into our evening. And remember, only you can prevent stupidity. Do your best. Slap it upside the back of the head if it needs it. Baron G-Rock? Oh, wait, you're muted. Dang it. Connell, would you like to escort us out?
Sure, why not? This should be interesting. For all those who are watching this video now, us doing this now, and for all those who are watching this later, I want you all to go out there and have some fun finding a game that you want to play with your buddies. As Baron, if Baron would be able to talk, he would say, thank you for sharing some time with us, because time is a finite thing, and you spent some of it with us. Some wordage like that. He's a whole lot better with wordage than I am. So go out, have a beer. If you're underage, have some root beer, and, adios.